Here we go. Oh, 2 seconds. Right, ready. Hello, and welcome back to the SP podcast. I'm Diane Daniels, and together with SP founder Tatan Spiller, we're going to take you through the past week in UK politics. If you haven't listened before, then welcome. And if you have, welcome back, old friend. Hello, Tatan.
I've literally about half an hour ago I read a message from a lovely little person called Rachel on Patreon, who was saying that I'm too mean to Diane over the introductions, and I was all set to be really positive and say how great that was, but it was so bad. I mean, first of all, we're not just taking you through the past week in UK politics. That's like a tiny bit of what we do in the podcast. You've missold the podcast, and then, and like yourself, you haven't listened before, and then you've lied to the people who haven't listened before, and then you've called old friends. I mean,
we're all friends on this podcast.
we are all friends. I'm letting Rachel down here.
Yeah,
but I don't feel like I have any other option.
No, well, thank you, Rachel. Thank you. It means a lot that you stuck up for me and tried. So, yes, thank you.
If you get the description, the one-line description of the podcast wrong, there's very little I can do. We're also going to welcome Lottie. Lottie's hanging around with us today. She'll be here with answering questions. And she's currently on mute, so I mean, I haven't muted her. Diane hasn't muted. She's self-muted. We're not censoring Lottie.
No.
Yeah.
There she is.
Hello.
There she is. Hello. Listen, we've got a really busy week, but I just want to talk about our Patreon backers briefly. So not only do you get to tell me off for telling off Diane, not only do you get to have that position, but also, I mean, listen, Ellie just absolutely just been really generous, just up the amount that she gives, which is just really kind. So thank you, Ellie, and thank you, Rachel, and thank you to all the Patreon people who we hang out with and chat with and enjoy, whose company we enjoy, unless they're telling me off. But you know, fair enough, that's your prerogative. If you want to join our Patreon community, it's like you can start £3 a month. For just £3 a month, you can have a go at me, like brilliant, or be supportive if you want. Like Rachel was being of Diane. www.patreon.com/simplepolitics. Do join us. It's a lovely community. We'd love to have you there.
Brill. We've got so much to cover this week. We're going to get straight into the top 3 posts from across our social media pages. Let's have a look at what came in third place this week.
At number 3 of the top 3 posts was Wes Streeting on Laura Kuenssberg on Sunday. And he had a difficult job because he was clearly talking ahead of the welfare stuff, the welfare changes, cuts, and you're not allowed to say anything. But so you have to go in and kind of sit in the chair, and they're like, "What's going to happen?" And you say, "Well, I'm obviously not going to preempt whatever so and so says." And it's like, and as a viewer watching these things, it's really frustrating. But he did talk about mental health conditions and diagnosis, because 44% of claimants who claim for benefits out of work, you can't work because of your health. 44% now are mental health based, and that didn't used to be. That's going up and up and up. Like I think not too long ago it was like 15%, and it's changed a lot. And Wes Streeting says that he thought perhaps mental health was being over-diagnosed. It's hard. I've got loads of mental health diagnoses. It's really tricky. The Bipolar Foundation of the UK says there are roughly 1 million people in the UK with bipolar, which is a lot, and it made me not feel very special. But it's a lot of people. But there are not 1 million people with bipolar diagnoses. That's an estimate from that organisation as to how many there would be. So that would suggest underdiagnosis. And it's possible to say that forgive me.
That's okay.
My brain this morning. What's it possible to say? Patreon viewers, you get to see this. Lucky.
It's all right. But from what you're saying, Tatin, I think two things can be true, can't they? Like mental health claimants can be going up and up and up and up and up, but also it's not about overdiagnosis. Those two things can separately be true, right?
Is it? But is there a world? Just trying to take Streeting's corner.
Yeah.
Is there a world in which people go to the doctor and are easily signed off with depression because the doctor wants to help them out? Right? They're struggling, and it is different. There is a difference between finding things hard, and certainly short term. Things are hard at work. Things are hard. You've had a breakup, maybe even worse, right? And that's a sadness, maybe a deep sadness that you need help with, but maybe not the same. I don't know. Maybe not the same as depression, but maybe there's a world in which doctors, because they're due to, they want to help you out. They will give you a formal diagnosis, whereas clearly in the past they wouldn't have done. But with the diagnosis, you then get access to medication. You then get, when I was first diagnosed with depression years and years and years ago, I got access to free 6 sessions of counselling. And maybe we are over-diagnosing. If he's not a stupid man, Wes Streeting. He's got to be talking about something specific, and maybe this is where it is. You're over-diagnosing to help people out and get them some support, which is really useful, even if the books or whatever. I don't know how you record what should be a diagnosis. Maybe that's where you might get more. I don't know. I don't know where else he can be talking about for overdiagnosis.
Yeah, I think it's really tricky. But as a headline quote, it clearly isn't going to sit right with some people because, it doesn't delve any deeper.
And it's belittling. If he says, if we got overdiagnosis, and I sit here, with my bipolar diagnosis, does he feel like I'm not? Is he undiagnosing me? Is he questioning me? Like that's hard to hear.
Yeah, it is. And that's, I think, a separate conversation or is it? I don't know. But clearly there is a conversation to be had about why so many people can't work due to mental health. That's just facts, right?
I think what's really interesting there is there's also talk about 400% more diagnoses for neurodivergence or whatever, and I think we're just better at spotting it. Right, my daughter has been diagnosed with autism relatively recently, and she's quite high functioning, but clearly, has lots of the symptoms of autism because she is autistic. And what that diagnosis does is it unlocks more support. In fact, her school's been so brilliant anyway; she's already got lots of support. But it unlocks that, and so there's a lot more diagnoses going on because we're more sensitive to it. And that could be the case for mental health as well. Maybe it's not the doctors being kind because they want to help. Maybe it's doctors knowing the symptoms more.
Yeah.
Like when I was a kid and got checked out for these things, I was just dismissed, right? And now they know the symptoms. You're going to get more diagnoses. Those diagnoses are going to go up exponentially if we talk about, the most insulting thing that I've heard this week is about sickfluencers.
Oh.
Who help you game the system, right? Lots of people in Parliament using this phrase, and it's clearly wrong because these online sickfluencers will teach you how to get the diagnosis that you want. I think it's one of these issues you get in Parliament now and again, where anecdotal stories somehow trump evidence.
Yeah.
And like you do, it's quite rare. It's cross-party, this sickfluencer chat, but people start hearing the term and they go, "Oh, that's Like, it is awful. Like, if you can be coached online as to what to say when you go to the doctor, so you can get written off and onto benefits, that's obviously terrible. But how many people are doing that? Is it statistically relevant to change the system for the whole country?
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I got to go on to post number 2 of the week. I'm not going to spend loads of time on this because this is one we talked about last week as well in a question. And it just shows that it's clearly on people's minds at the minute because of the welfare reform chat. What's almost seen as the opposite policy is a wealth tax. It's like people see it as like two sides of a coin. And so we decided, we had a great chat on the pod last week because someone wrote in with a question about why isn't there just a wealth tax? So we thought it would be good to woo and boo it, put it on the grid, let people join in the wider chat, which they did, which was cool. And it's not going away because Green co-leader Carla Denyer stood up yesterday, Prime Minister's Questions, and asked the same thing of Keir Starmer. Asked, it was in the Green Manifesto, why don't you look at people with the broader shoulders paying? And for those of you who are listening who are in any doubt as to whether Keir Starmer is thinking about this or not,
Don't be in any doubt.
He said, if everything in your manifesto had come true, you would have tanked the economy, is what he basically said to her, paraphrasing. So
But he's got less of a leg to stand on when Diane Abbott stood up at Prime Minister's Questions and said the same thing.
Yeah.
Nadia Whitmore was on. Nadia Whitmore was on Politics Live, and said the same thing. He can dismiss the Green Party manifesto all he likes, but when his own MPs are saying it, it's different, right?
It is, but he never promised it. Wasn't a manifesto promise.
Oh no.
No.
I mean, it's not going to happen.
No.
But a lot of Labour a lot of people on the left of the Labour Party are looking at cutting aid to people. They don't cutting foreign aid. They're looking at cutting the PIP payments to a lot of people, and they're just saying, why are we, the Labour Party, cutting from the most vulnerable people, A, in the world, B, in the country?
Winter fuel, you could add on to that, yeah.
Winter fuel.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so that's why there's so much wealth tax chat around now, because people feel like the Labour Party shouldn't be doing this. But of course, the Labour Party now say, well, we are the Labour Party, we're the party of work.
Yes.
Which is a slight twist on what they used to say about it. But yes, that's interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And also that, that old saying comes out again, time and time again, 14 years. 14 years, the Conservatives. So they're basically saying it's the tough decisions to get back on track.
What I'm loving at the moment, I'm sure you've spotted this, is the Conservatives have started telling Labour they've had 14 years to come up with a plan.
Yeah.
And now they're in government, they haven't got one. Which is just, I love it. Oh, you've had 14 years to think about this. I mean, it's obviously not the same as having been in power for 14 years, but it's a strong flipperooning. Yeah.
Right. Well, what was number 1 then?
Number 1, and this is what so often happens on our page, because we're not a newspaper and we have a specific readership. We've talked about them throughout this podcast so far. The actual welfare benefits cuts were not featured in our top 3 posts this week. But the number 1 post was from Sir Gareth Southgate, who was never quite good enough as England manager to get us across the line. Too many years of hurt But he gave this lecture for the BBC, and it's about masculinity and young people and, you know, toxicity, influence. I mean, obviously we've got this kind of spectre of Andrew Tate wandering around, and we keep on saying we worry that he's a role model for our young people. I don't think in the UK he is massively, not in the same way as he is in, say, America, but you know, we've got this TV show that's just come out that's about all of this stuff, and men and boys are in trouble. Like being a boy is difficult. Speaking as the father of boys, speaking as a teacher who have seen teenage boys a lot. It's really difficult, and Gareth Southgate was so good at talking about it. I'm just going to read some of the words he said, because I've got not, apart from he's absolutely right, and I found the speech completely absorbing. We have to show young men that character is more important than status, that how you treat others is more important than how much money you make. The culture we create today will shape the kind of men that we inherit tomorrow. And that's, you know, it's a really important message.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And it, you know, it might not be Andrew Tate, but just the whole culture of flashiness and materialism, all of that kind of stuff is definitely something that teenage boys gravitate towards, you know.
It's the Faustian deal, isn't it? Where you sell whatever you can to get things as quickly as possible, but then it spirals out of control. Yeah. So good role models, we need them. We absolutely. And how do you create them? Because if you give, I mean, if you look at football players, for example, you give more often than not working class young men a huge amount of money.
Yep.
They go out and they buy the cars and the house, and that's that. So the kids playing football in the park, who not only celebrate like their favourite players, but also argue with the referee like their favourite players do.
Yeah.
And they go into school and argue with teachers because that's what they see in the Premier League. They're also getting this, I mean, exactly what Southgate's talking here, money influence, that they want to be rich like them. And if they are rich like them, well, clearly they're going to spend it on those same things. You know, you got some footballers. Jack Grealish clearly does a lot for charity and does a lot to help people out and that kind of thing. But it's quite rare to hear about philanthropist footballers. It's rare to hear about people who get all the money and then go, oh, well, this is great. I'm just going to give 1 million of my however many million contract to whoever it might be. So, but it's also not fair to say to those footballers that you have to be a role model. You know, it's not fair to expect each individual working class kid grown up without very much suddenly gets a load of money. It's not fair to say to them, right, now you're a role model and you have to do this, and this. Because they're allowed to spend it how they want. They're allowed to do what they want. So finding these people, and it was a real shame that Jack Grealish got dropped from England just as he was really building that reputation. So he wasn't at that Euros last year. It's hard. Where do the role models come from? They don't. They have to come from somewhere, and they cannot just appear. And if we haven't got a culture that creates them, how are they created?
Yeah, I think it's harder to do on that level where you're talking about England players, Man City players, whatever. I think it's what we need and what we're sometimes struggling with is people in your community. So kids there's a lot less kids in clubs, in things than there potentially used to be, where you've got just your great local coach or
Yeah.
people to look up to.
They always have a BBC Sports Personality of the Year. They always have like the Coach of the Year or the
Like
community
grassroots.
coach or
Yeah.
something. The grassroots, and they're always just the most amazing people.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think
I think it's also. I know we've got to move on. Sorry, Dan, but
No.
I think it's also an issue of siloed TV and echo chambers. Is that I can watch great TV shows with great male role models, who aren't toxic at all and who are wonderful. But but that's not what's going on their screens. Actually, I make sure we all watch TV together. But it might not be what's going on. Like Gladiators is a great thing because they got really it's some really lovely people. I mean, I know there's some steroid use and that's suboptimal, but there's some like some really lovely. It's about fitness and the contestants have all got these families and like it's nice. I really enjoy watching Gladiators with the. I'm more just want to talk about Gladiators. Can we have a separate Gladiators podcast?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's wholesome fun. It's pantomime as well. It's great.
Oh, completely pantomime.
Brilliant. Yeah.
But I mean, I think strong women and wholesome men. Like it's good. It's good.
Right, Lottie.
Hello.
Do you want to join us?
I've just
Come
been
on
loving the
in.
gladiator chat, really.
Fun fact. Kobe, who sometimes guest hosts, was a contestant
Oh,
on
wow.
Gladiators once.
No, he wasn't. He was
Well,
a contender.
contender.
They have contenders on Gladiators, not contestants.
That's pretty cool.
I know.
Oh, it's so cool. Every now and again, he'll put the post up on his Instagram,
Yeah.
and I just fanboy it.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good to be back. Sorry I wasn't here last week.
That's all right.
It was hard. It was hard for all
I
of
was
us.
on the beach.
You are allowed time off, Lottie. It's okay.
But yeah, we've
What have
got
you
some really interesting questions this week. So question 1, Jennifer asks, how does information about government policy end up in the media before the official announcement? Is information leaked to the press, and if so, what does the leaker get out of it?
There was once a day when the Chancellor on Budget Day would stand outside number 11 Downing Street with his briefcase, his red briefcase held up high because he was going to go into the chamber and read out what was in it. And nobody knew what was in it. And it was like a taunt, like a ha ha ha, I've got this folder and you have nothing, ha ha ha. That's how I'd speak if I was Chancellor. And they would then go into the chamber and there would be genuine rabbits in the hat. Like they'd pull out things that no one knew what was going to come on. Now, everyone knows every word. Like they still come out and Rachel Reeves was out there with her briefcase and did it. But everyone knows,
Yeah.
like everyone knows everything.
Yeah.
Which is boring. I quite like it. So very, very occasionally, Diane, we get moments in the comments, don't we? Where we don't know what's coming.
Yes, but they're less than they used to. Definitely less. And it's that slow creep of like almost by the time they are announcing in the Commons, you're like, I'm over it. And
Yeah, and it's really hard. It's really hard for us posting. I mean,
Yeah.
will somebody think of us? Because when do we post? When it's leaked and it's not, we don't know if it's real. Do we wait till it's actually said in the comments? By which time exactly the rest of the world has heard of it and moved on.
Yeah.
It's tricky. But I mean, Lottie, you and I watched the vote result come through from the assisted dying bill, and that was a moment of real jeopardy in House of Commons where nobody knew how it was going to go, and those are quite rare,
Yeah.
I think. And it helped with because it wasn't a government bill, was it? So that helped with the thing. Sorry, Lottie,
I
I
was sitting on
interrupted
the
you.
edge of the sofa, like anticipating what was coming, because we were like wanting to get
We were both
Yeah.
stood in my office.
just waiting.
So you were on the edge of the sofa.
Sorry,
Lottie.
we were in the office. Stood up.
Stood up, though.
Yeah.
Stood up.
Yeah.
I don't have two chairs. I've only got one chair in the office. But the answer is the government leaked these things intentionally. They leaked them intentionally because, first of all, the further out you go, I think someone on the radio called it kiting yesterday. You put stuff out there, see how people feel about it, and if people go, oh, actually, that's a good idea, then you can include it. And if they say, oh, I don't like it, you can be like, oh, it was never policy.
And
We never said it was policy.
yeah, and do you know what else happens with that kiting or floating an idea is that people start to already move through the change curve. So if you say winter fuel allowance is going, but you've said it a month ago and then it's been in the papers every day since, you start to accept it. That, oh my God, this is happening.
What's the window? Is it the Opperton window?
God, I don't know.
There's a window
Yeah.
where of acceptable policies, and that shifts to the left and to the right depending on what's going on, depending on what's happening. And all major UK parties sit within that window normally, but to shift what's acceptable as you go. And then I think there's also just all the papers want something that can be an exclusive.
Yeah.
So you're keeping the papers on side by leaking to them slowly and silently. And all, ministers are want to feel like they know a lot. So they like to occasionally leak things out too. But yeah, I mean, but the days of the surprise announcement.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
question 2. So Lara asks, how do shows like BBC Question Time decide who to invite on air? Because BBC is publicly funded, do they have to follow any formulas of political balance?
Yes, Laura, exactly that. They have to. There's a very strict formula they have to do. So they use the number of votes at the last election partly, so that if the Greens got, I can't remember what it was, 6% of the vote at the last election, the Greens should have somebody on at least 6% of the time. I think it ends up being slightly more than that. No, it's not 6% of the time. It's 6% of the seats on the show, and as there's 5 seats on the show, you get through those percentages much quicker. So there'll always be a Labour, there'll always be a Conservative. And those might not be Labour or Conservative MPs. They could just be people who represent that kind of perspective. And then now and again, there was huge publicity because they felt they had to invite Nick Griffin from the BNP on years and years and years ago. And there was big fight about that because he's a massive racist and should never be given a platform. But they were like, no, because we're impartial. If that number of people voted for him, he has to be on the show. And then they kind of look around for other interesting people. They know roughly what people have said and where they might stand, and they try and have a good mix. They love it if they can pull in a comedian to come in and sit down. Jeff Northcott's like the only right-wing comedian. He's not even that far right-wing. He's a conservative level right-wing comedian, and so he's on that show all the time because they love having a bit of fun in there, some experienced journalists in there. Once you've got your bases covered for a decent, representative, impartial split, you can then find someone fun and someone interesting to come on.
Cool.
Sorry.
They've not invited me.
You.
I'm a bit upset. One day.
Definitely.
It'd be quite fun.
It would.
It would be fun.
Manifesting that. Perfect. That's all the questions I've got this week. So yeah, back to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Lottie.
Thanks, Lottie. Right, we'll move on. We're going to do Pandemic Watch this week. We promised it last week, for those who can remember. We said that we would talk about the legacy of the pandemic because on Sunday, the 23rd, right, it is 5 years since Boris Johnson came on our TV screens and told us that we were going into the first lockdown. Now, obviously we could do a whole other show about everything that happened since then, but we're specifically going to look at sort of things that have changed, 3 key things that may never be the same again, really. Shall we talk first about schools and attendance? Yeah.
I mean, it's so like I wonder if the 23rd of March is the current generation's where were you when? Like, it was JFK died, and then Diana died, and then the 2 towers. Is this the new one? I don't know. I've not heard anyone talk about it as such, but where? I mean, I remember it so clearly. But yeah, like talk changing forever in schools. School's always the safest place to be, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like, and that's the government message. Like, go to school. We will help you. We will look after you. Go to school. And then we said, don't go to school, and schools aren't safe. And in the run up before the 23rd of March, people were pulling their children out because they felt it wasn't safe. Even though lockdown hadn't been announced, they were pulling their children out of school themselves. And then they weren't in school, and so they didn't have their friends, they didn't have their teachers. I mean, there were Zoom things, and you know, I think almost all schools managed to put together something in terms of online. Obviously, the older you are, the easier it is to do like a lecture-style chat online. Whereas the youngest, if you're in reception, it's really tricky. They do story time. I remember, like, my youngest was they used to do story time every day. So now what have we got? We've got attendance is still way down, as parents learned, way down on what it was pre-pandemic. But the kids that are in school missed out on really important years, and that's bad because they didn't have as good education at home as they would have had at school. But it's also bad because they weren't socializing. They weren't hanging out with their friends.
Yeah.
And so now you're hearing all kinds of stories. I'm not a teacher anymore, but I know I still have friends who are teachers, and they're saying that behavior is so much worse than it was pre-pandemic. People lost that opportunity. And we're talking about things that may never change, that may never go back to how they were. Maybe they will, but not for this generation. Anyone who was between reception and year 13, year 12, year 13, for those 2 years, has had a very different experience of life.
Yeah, definitely.
To everybody else.
Yeah.
And so while school attendance might creep back up and, everything, like, we might massage out the system, we will never be able to do that. I mean, university students the same. Like, and that was all social, really, because I think university students can do a lot of it online anyway. And in fact, lots have gone back to hybrid learning afterwards. But it is for those people in those formative years.
Yeah. And it's in a way, it's a little bit like things that people lost that were rites of passage to, like proms and those kind of, all those things that kind of stick with you. But I have a teacher friend, and they said that, like, one of the things that has also changed with the online learning is that now we're all set up for it. We've all got Google Classroom or whatever, set up. There's never going to be a snow day, where you're just like, or, your boiler's broken day at school where you're just like, rah, we can do whatever. There will be work set online from now on, and that's rubbish.
Surely that's not true. I mean, we haven't had any real snow as a whole country.
Yeah.
We haven't had snow for a couple of years now. Not really since the Beast from the East. But surely if we had another Beast from the East,
I'm not going on Google
we would.
Classroom.
I feel like if it was one day, the teachers would be like, go on then. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's sad.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Yeah. And then workplaces. I mean, we all work remotely from home anyway. But there is a lot of chat that while a lot of kids haven't gone back to school, there's a lot of people who started working from home for the pandemic and have not gone back to an office. And there are business leaders who see that as a problem.
You rarely hear people making the case for working from home. You always hear, always back to the office and making quotas and numbers and whatever. But you very rarely hear people say it's good. I mean, it's clearly good in terms of being able to not travel and use your time better, and it changes, work-life balance. There's one argument that says it's harder to learn because if you're junior in the office, being in and around everybody doing stuff, you're picking stuff up by osmosis, you're having those, conversation, water cooler moments. We don't really do water coolers, but, making a cup of tea in the tiny little kitchen in the corner of your office, moments where you get to chat to someone really senior. And so for the senior people, it's quite nice. They've got a big enough house to have a nice little office space, and they're, a nice desktop computer. Whereas for the junior people, they haven't got that. Most professional house sharing houses don't have a sitting room because that's been turned into another bedroom. Like in London, at least, that's been turned into another bedroom.
Yeah.
So they're doing their work in their bedroom on a little laptop, and it's harder, I think, for those specific people. I mean, obviously, there's some people, like if you're in the service industry, you can't work from home because that's not where people are. It's tricky. How do you think we should have the right to work from home?
I'm really in favor of a hybrid approach, because I get the argument that says if our offices are empty all of the time, then there's other things that suffer, like little cafes on the corner. And, I get that. It's, bringing people into town or into an office or into a that I get that economically. But I think one day a week to be able to put a wash on before you turn your laptop on and, do a few things is so beneficial. Beneficial.
And it's levelling up, isn't it? Because you can work from further away.
Yeah.
You don't have to live in the southeast.
Yeah. True. Very true, actually. Very true. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, but it is difficult. It's because it suits some people. And everyone needs kind of prisoner's dilemma stuff, because everybody needs to agree to work in the office for there to be any reason to work in the office.
Yeah. Okay, last one really quickly. How do you think politics has changed?
Oh, politics has been profoundly damaged forever by Partygate and by Cummings' eye test. There was some amazing things that we did with the vaccine rollout, with supporting some people, with moving quickly, we did some amazing things. But when you have Matt Hancock, who's a disgraceful man, and Partygate and Dominic Cummings, while we are all doing the right thing, quite rightly, some people will never trust politicians ever again after that. What can any politician do to win back trust after that monstrosity?
Yeah, they've just got to keep going, don't they? They've just got to keep going. Yeah. We got to look for one positive at the end of a pandemic chat, Tatton. We've got to I mean, the positive is they didn't keep the 5 o'clock briefings forever, so we don't have to listen to those every day, which is good.
No, you see, I think those are. I think the opposite of that. I think the 5 o'clock briefing was something really positive because it showed that we did understand how to communicate to the public. Politician, then a scientist, then a service runner, whatever, like a head of police or whatever. That was how to communicate clearly, directly with the public every day when things were important. I wish we had more of them. I wish the public still did it. So the Prime Minister still did it in that format. Like quite frequently. I wish that Liz Kendall had done it for the welfare cuts, so she could really clearly tell the people, not like a political speech in the Commons, really clearly tell people what was going on and encourage them to get involved with the consultation. I think those 5 o'clock. So those 5 o'clock briefings were brilliant. They didn't need to be every day, maybe, but maybe they didn't when they did it. But I want to see more of them.
Ooh, okay. Controversial. There we go. More 5 o'clock briefings, please. That's what we want. Well, that's what Tatton wants.
But wouldn't it be great if Liz Kendall had done that?
Yeah, to be fair, I think more explanation and taking questions. I always love it when they take questions. That for me is often the best bit of of any of those briefings. But yeah, cool. Right. If that was looking back, let's look forward. Next week, it is the spring statement. If you don't know what that is, it is where Rachel Reeves, Chancellor, is going to tell us the latest financial economic position. There will be updates from various finance places that she will bring in, and she will tell us the state of things and whether she needs to change track or not. That's what we're expecting, isn't it?
I mean, it is like it's we're in real trouble with money, real trouble. A lot of it again because of the pandemic. Like they try and blame 14 years of Conservative mismanagement, but actually most of it is just the pandemic, which has gone wrong. But the Conservatives are trying to call it the emergency budget, which is not, but they really want it to be. So they keep saying the emergency budget. We're in trouble. We borrowed so much during the pandemic. Everything's really expensive. Everything's still in a bit of a mess. We've squeezed international aid. We've squeezed welfare. What else do we do? So all eyes on Rachel Reeves. It'll be about 12:30 on Wednesday.
Be a good one next week. It will be a good one.
It will be.
Yeah. So all things money next week. That's one to look forward to. Set yourself a reminder, and we'll bring you kind of all of the reaction to that when we do the podcast. So if you've any money questions, get those in as well, because that would be good, and we'll see what we can do on those. But thank you if you've made it to the end of this podcast, which I'm sure you all have.
I mean, literally everyone listening has.
Yeah.
So, yes, thank you very much.
And thanks, Lottie, and thanks, Tatton. And we will speak next week. Bye, everyone.
Speak next week. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye-bye.